basically, if you want to give this cube some functionality, I say this place is your scene, so you take it back. Discover this scene is at the top. Look at it, it's not touching ground. If you want it to touch ground, you click on this arrow, this right left arrow, then you drop it. It's now it's touching ground. So if this thing is too big, if you want to reduce the size, this is what we use to reduce the size. We call it reduction plot. If you click it like this, then you can reduce the size according to your choice. So let me allow it to touch ground. Okay, so as it is down, look at what I say. As anytime you want this thing to move now, first thing to do is that you come to this place, you take this box will be here, it's going to be here, you drag it to this, your character image, so like it's going to be this side. So you drag it to this side, and if you want to now give it functionality, you double click it, so that will take you to cube scene. It will come like this. So if you give it movement, you go to movement, you pick any, if you want it to be jumping, you want it to be moving like motor, you want it to rotate, float, anything, bounce, going to be bouncing, depending on what you want. You know, games has different things. It's just about creativity. That's why as I'll give you people one classwork now, you discover that the best thing to do is just sit down, pick your biro and pen, just try to draw some stuff. There's nothing you cannot do with this. No game in the world you cannot design. All these PS, all of you, I will still give you some assignments. Some of you, I will say you should design a Genja adventure, some design soccer. You see, there's nothing you cannot do at all. Okay, so let's say if you want it to move, you pick movement and drop it. That is, you click it, you left click and drag it to this place. So you connect it. You enable it by connecting it to your crate. It's connected to your crate now. So you now click this move. As if you want to check the code, you click this symbol, you see all the code, and you can add anything you really want. But that's not what I want to do now. So I'll click the move. I want to set variable for the move. This X axis is showing linear motion. Y axis is showing horizontal motion. So that is this horizontal motion, like this. Linear motion is straight line. So and what you want is linear motion. So you remove this X. So the Z is speed. You want to give that bus speed. So if you give it positive speed, it's going to be moving towards. If you give it negative speed, it will be moving away from. So if you give it minus, for example, I say minus 20 the last time. So this is your preview pellet. If you click this preview button, double click it, it's going to save and preview. It's going to save and preview. Just watch it now. It's moving away from us. You realize that the speed is very fast. If you want to control the speed now, you will reduce the value there. If I reduce the value to 3, so there, I reduce the value to 3. You see, it's going gradually, moving gradually. So you can give command so that the person that is playing it, what do you want the person to do? So if you want to give command, anything, the code language for command is control. You go to control. So that is to say you want to put the command that the game player is going to use to play the game. If you put joystick, that shows you cannot play this game except you add pad to the computer. If you put keyboard, you cannot play this game except you are using keyboard to play it. But basically, I just like to So I like to just make it simple by using 4-way sweep. So the meaning of 4-way sweep is I want to be using greater than, less than, up arrow and down arrow key. So I will enable it. You must be making connection. So I've enabled it like this. So now here, I will now add any of this arrow I want to use. If I want to use all of them, I'll put the one for up, one for down, the one for left, the one for right. But I just want to make use of left and right. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll go to movement. So I'll go to movement like this. I will add one. I'll add one. So this one I wish to activate my left. I wish to activate my left. So I'll put another one to activate my right. So then I will give them my, how will I put it now? I'll give them my values. When you want to activate, which one did I click now? Left. Take note, your left value should be negative value. Then your right value should be positive value. Let's say if I want to be moving in left and right now, so in mathematics, which number represents left and right? Is it X or Y? X, right? Okay. This would have said so. So left should be -3, right? Then R should be -3. Let's see, maybe you have 3. Stand up, I know. See now. Is it working? I just want to. Okay. So his wife, huh? Hey. Oh, sorry. Please let me out of this. So you say his wife are right. Yeah, you see it now. So are you correct? Oh. Is that? Okay, this is left and 3. My right is okay. So you just put the values you previewed. So let's now have a more dynamic game by bringing unique character. So and today I don't want to work with my cube at all. So let's design a game that is more fashionable and more unique. So let's design, let's say, a race game, simple car race game. So let me delete this one. So if you want to design a car race game, first and foremost, let's go and download variables. So let's say the characters we'll be needing. So we'll go to assets library, but take note, your Wi-Fi must be connected before you do that. So you go to this assets library, click the plus sign. It will take you to this place. So let me the first thing I want to download, let me download like a car named vehicle. Let me pick this car. So if you pick the car, you will add it to project. You click add to project. So it's going to be added here. See now. So let me say I want to add some other thing like an enemy. Maybe the car will hit something and the game will be over or continue, whatever. So I add it as well. So let me pick this enemy too. I will add this. So let's say I want to pick some buildings around that we arrange. Let's say bricks building. You can pick any building you really want. So take note, anyone you see free, that's the one you are going to make. Okay. There are very plenty. Let me just forget about that for now. So let me pick more enemies, like, or let me pick character. So and pick the character you want to use. You want to use skeleton. No one you want. Okay, let's just say you have picked this few just for explanatory purpose. So you can go back. If you want to go back, you cancel this asset. Cancel it. It will take you back to this place. So let's start. So now we have what we really want to work with. So the first character we want to use here is our car. So this car, anything that is inside your object, you cannot walk until you drag it to your character scene. So I will put left click like this and drag it to this place. So I cannot make use of it here. But before I make use of it, I need to give well definition to this my part. That is the road that I want to use for my car. So to do that, let's first of all go and download some different kind of road paths. So to do that, you go to your Google. You download some road paths of your choice. I already downloaded some few ones, but I just want to show you what to do. So you click anytime you want to get road, and I click road texture looping. Road texture looping. Road texture looping. You see different roads. You can click them and download them. We know how to download, right? You just click, or you right click on top and click save as image. But make sure that anyone you want to download is very neat. You know what they call watermark. You make sure that there's nothing is written on top of anyone you want to make. Okay, so let's assume now that you have downloaded it. So let's go back to our build box. Let's assume that we have downloaded it. So if you really want to make use of it, the first thing you are going to do is you go to your ground. This is your ground. So you change it from this grass. Beg your pardon. You click the grass. You see here saying the ground type is grass. You remove it to none. And when you are doing driving game, nothing like doing grass. So this is where your game will be moving. And this is where we want to put our loop as our road loop. So to do that, the first thing you are going to do here, after you have removed, take note of it. What is the first thing? The first step is to download your assets. After you download your assets, you take your car from objects scene to character scene. Beg your pardon. So when you take your objects from object scene to character scene, and the next thing is you will click background and remove the background from grass to no grass or no background. So after that, the next thing is you now create a definition for your scene part. So to do that, you come to this plus sign, you click it. When you left click it, it's going to show you different. So you click scene part. And the minute I click scene part, you can see a sign here. So that's where you are going to place that your downloaded road loop. So but before you do that, immediately after you do this, okay, and let's just continue like that. Immediately after you do this, you can click the scene part here. Take note of it. The first thing is to click this sign to create scene part, and the next step is you click this scene. When you click this scene, it's going to show you a symbol like this. You see now. But when it's showing you a symbol like this, this is where you will now drag the downloaded road texture looping. So let me go to my download. Look at. So make sure that anyone you want to use, the arrow is horizontal, is vertical. Look at, this is what they call vertical. I'm going to do after this is I can expand the road. I'll just click this hand and I will drag. I can zoom out. I can drag it very well. I can zoom in. Okay. So now that I drag it now, so I can bring my car immediately. I will left click and drag the car. Left click and drag the car. So what I taught you that time, immediately you bring character from this character scene to this scene part. What would be the next thing you will do? You check maybe if the movement is very correct. And how do you do that? You go to your design scene. This is your design scene. So if this thing is not connected together, that shows why you are bringing the character. There is an error. You have made an error. But if it's connected like that, shows you brought the character correctly. I'll go back to my 3D world, which is this place. So I can just preview. Though you will not have any function right now, but let's just preview. Okay, so this is the car. It's ready to move. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I want to give this car definition. So that's what I taught you when we're using cube. I beg your pardon. You give that cube some definition. You give the cube some definition. So let's give this car some definition. So now let's give this definition. You want to give it definition, this is the first thing you will do. Guys, I want to tell my computer, I want to program how I want this car to be working. So I'll click it. When I click it there, I'll come to this car plate, this side again. That is your character scene. So I'll click it just one time. See, now if you click it twice, it's going to open another character scene for you. Guys, look at now. If I double click it, see now it opens your character scene for working, for control. This character scene for control, but that's not what I really want. So take note of it. If you want to work on this character, you click the car, then you click the car once. See now. So from this place, the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to give this car physique. Physics, the word physics simply means natural. How I want the car to be behaving. So I'll give it dynamics. The meaning of dynamics is that the car can behave, it can jump. You know, the car, when you are watching it now, you are playing it on your phone or on your system, you will love the graphics. So I'll put it as, if you put it as none, it's not going to do anything. If you put it as statics, the thing will just only go front and back and not bend. If you put it as kinetic, kinematics. Kinematics simply means it can hook up, it can go up and come down, but it cannot wave. If you put it as dynamics, it can go up, it can come down, it can go straight, backward, it can anyhow. So you are giving it free roll, like in football. So I said you can. So if you put it as dynamics, you are giving it free roll. It can do a lot of things. Okay, so now let's give it. It's going to open like this for you. So the next thing I'm going to do is like, I want this car to so now you see, like I said, you change it to dynamics if you want it to be multifunctional. Okay, so now that I put it as dynamics, let's assume now that I want this car to fall from up. When it will fall and mark on the floor and start walking. So what you are going to do there is you click the car, you lift the car up. So then you can click it here once again. So you go to this pollution group. See now, I say I click the car, I lift the car up. When I lift the car up, I went to my pollution group. You see now it's showing none. I will change it to character. The meaning of changing it to character is like when anybody is playing the game, this object should be the major thing the game player can control. That this car now should be the major object the game player can control. That is the meaning of setting the car as character. Okay, so click it again. So I've set it as character, then I will go down. Okay, now so we move up and down with y-axis now. Remember, so this y-axis is 0. If it's 0, is against gravitational force. It cannot fall. Gravitational force is what 10 gram per second. So you change it in order for gravitational force to affect it. So you put a value in this y. If I put 1, it's going to fall very fast. It depends on what you just want. Let's test 1 first. So this is 1. If I click it now, remember when you want to be double click twice. Okay, so if you set 1, it will just fall very fast. It's not going to fall the way you really want. Okay, it's not even falling. Okay, sorry. This is rotation. It's positioning that you are going to change. Okay, so if you really want it to fall, when you click the car, so sorry, you click the car, so you go to your position factor and you change the y. The y is in 0. That's why gravitation could not really help matter. So you change it to Let's assume now that I change it to 0.1. 0.1. It's going to fall very fast. But the best thing to use is 0.5. So now, the best standard to use is 0.5. It's going to fall in the minimum speed. Put it as 0.5. 0.5. Okay. Now, if you discover when the thing fell, it entered inside the seam part. The reason is because you see why this thing is falling. This seam part in coding or in app creation, you must define what you really want to happen. So, like this part now, to this programming box, this place is a soft ground, so this thing can penetrate anything that fall in 3D motion will penetrate. It's just like in moon, nothing you throw up will be floating. Like even on earth, to anything you throw up, the thing must fall down. That's force of gravitation. So I must tell this thing that, see, I want this seam part to be strong, So if I want to do that, I'm gonna encrypt here that, see, I want you to be strong. And so to do that, I'll click this scene. When I click this scene, I'll come to this physics and I will click it. So when I click physics, simply means I'm solidifying this rule. I want this rule to be hard so that the car will not penetrate. So see what I did? The car was falling, so I click the same part. Then, your road, there's gravitational force that puppets the car to enter inside the road. So what if you really want to work on this gravitational force so that the car will stay on the road, so that the gravitational force will not take the car to penetrate inside the road? You are going to go and you go back to your scene part. So you see your physics simply means make this road hard so that this car will not enter inside the road. You want to give this road some physical strength. You click this physics, you market the physics. Yes, you mark the physics. You go to the next thing again too. You click the part and you mark the physics. All the things you've created, if you didn't mark this scene as physics, the scene will be soft and the car will penetrate. Okay, so let's click the second scene as well. So let's mark it. So let's go back to the start. Let's test it again by clicking our play button. This is used for previewing. So let's preview again. Where you can see that the car still beats the frictional force by dabbling into the road. So the reason is because the positional factor, I set it as 5, and remember gravitational force start from a 0 point, and the maximum gravitational force is 10 G. So 10 G, and this is, we'll set it as 5. If we really want to beat that gravitational force, we should set the value lower than 0. But if you want to do that now, let's click our character palette again. Let's click our character palette and let's click the car. So let's go back to this 5 and let's set it as 0.5, that is 0.5. So now that we have corrected the gravitational error, now the car can easily fall without entering inside the same path. So now I think what we need to do now is we need to set camera so that camera will follow the car. The reason is because when the camera is going along with the car, the motion will be pitted. That is to say, the motion will look as turning, and while the car is driving, if the camera is not going along with it, the car will be reducing in size while it's driving away from the person that is playing the game. But if the camera is attached, the person playing the game will be able to enjoy both the size and both the motion graphics. So now, to attach camera to this, you click the car and you go and click the camera. So when you click the camera and you come to this place they wrote position follow, you will select character. That is to say, position follow, that is to say, camera follow this character. So let's preview and see how it's gonna look like. Let's preview to see how it's gonna look like. Yeah, you see the camera just move along with the car. Okay, so quickly let's continue. I think the next thing we gonna do is let's give this car motion. So to do that, we'll come to this place, we double click, we click twice. Okay, so we double click, it brought us to the vehicle scene. So we are opening the scene for the vehicle, So this is the default languages that comes along with it, default instruction and command. So there are different commands here. We have content. This place you see a lot of things. You can bring different content, sound, label, create, blah blah blah. We're making use of it gradually, but you can practicalize them. You see what they do, very easy. Control, like this control is like you want to define what the person that will play the game will use to control the character. Like if you put touch now, anything that the person touch, the character in the game will respond. If you put touch movement as well, you'll be moving as you are touching and moving, the character will be moving along. We have jump joystick. If you want, the game should not be, if you want like joystick, like if you don't want anybody to be able to play the game without attaching joystick like pad to their system to play it, so if you put joystick now, so you can only use pad to play it or other joystick material. Also keyboard, you attach keyboard button, you set those cues in the keyboard you want them to use to play. So we have varieties of them, so but I prefer four-way swap sometimes. That if you put four-way swap, this was the person can play with up arrow, down arrow, left arrow, and right cursor. But for this explanation, let's just stick close this for now. Now movement, like the direction, movement is talking about direction, how you want the object to move, the character to move. So if you want it to be jumping, want it to just be moving, if you want it to more to simply mean to be dabbling around, different movement, follow path, float, rotate, bouncing. But I would just prefer to use simple movement for now, which is move. So I will left click, then I will drag it to where I want to use it. Okay, so I can take it up. So okay, so now I will create path. I will enable this movement to work by dragging from created. Sorry, that's an error. So I will connect it together. So when I connect it together, that shows mainly you click from start, there should be a movement. So this movement, I will click it again to set how I want it to move. This is the variable, this is the movement palette, the variable. So I will change it. Most time the Y is talking about the upwards, up upward thrust. The car is going to move right. So if I leave it at 0 and leave x at 0, this will say I permit gravitational force to reduce the speed. So it's better to set one as 0 and set one as none. If you put one at none, that is to say you are trying to tell the character that it should not allow gravitational force to affect both the up thrust and the lower thrust. So I would prefer to change the y to 0. Most times it's good to leave the y as 0 if you are working with a car, so that there won't be gravitational force pressing the car inside the scene. So this one, let me change the z, like how I want the car to move away from me. So if you want the car to move towards you, you can set it as a positive number. But if you want it to move away from you, you set it as negative number. As it is now that we have 1.5, and the car will be moving towards me, it's not going to move away from me. But if I prefer it to move away from me, I will set it as minus. You can give it any value. I'll give it like 20 for instance. So let's test run. Wow, it's working. So you can see it now, it's working, but it's bouncing. It's bouncing. So it's working right now, but if you look at it vividly, it's bouncing. So we'll try to correct the bouncing so that it will maintain the position. And if you look at it, one of the major reasons why it's bouncing is because there is no friction between the wheel of the tire and the road. So we're going to set friction. No, friction is like the force that allows two opposite surface to clinch together. So we're going to create friction between the wheels of the tire and the road. Okay, so let's go back to our 3 word. So now, as I've said, let's work on the friction. So click the car. So you go to the friction, you reduce, you increase the friction to like either, I prefer 0.98, increase to 0.98. So let's test run again to see. Let's test run again. So you can see, wow. But you see it's still bouncing, but it's far better than before. You can see that there's a little bit clinch between the road and the wheel of the tire, but it's still bouncing. And the reason why it's bouncing is because we put a very reasonable speed. You know, normally on the road, even if car is running and if the speed is very high, you see the car will start bouncing. But there's a way we can still work on it. So take note of it. If you discover that the car is still bouncing, what you will need to work on that will allow the car to stop bouncing is what we call collision. We are going to work on the collision. Don't work on the collision. The collision simply means the rate at which the tire hits the surface of the same part. So that is to say the rate at which this tire is hitting this road. We're going to work on it. So what we are going to work on now is the collision. Let's go back to our scene. So what we are going to do now, we're going to turn on collision. So as I've said, I said you will click the main vehicle. You come to this main vehicle palette. You select the collision shape. Most time it's always in cube. It's always in cube. So you change it to all. When you change it to all, and you click this little button here, this pencil shape, you click it. Then you come and select sphere. You search for sphere. Spherical. Search for your sphere. Okay, look at sphere. Search for sphere, and you click save. Let's preview it after we have done with the collision. We already set the graphics. So now let's see our work. Let's just preview it. Remember the last time it was still bouncing, but I said if it's bouncing, the first thing you need to do is to increase the friction And after increasing the friction, I know that the next thing that is very, very peculiar and important is for you to work on the collision shape. Wow, you can see it now that it's working well. It's working well. So you can see no longer bouncing. The reason why it's not bouncing now is because we've improved the friction and we also improved the collision. That is to say, the tire, we reduce the shape, we reduce the force by changing the shape. So the reason why it's not really bouncing again is because, first and foremost, we improve the friction, we increase it to 0.98, and if you look at it vividly, there's something very unique we did again. We kind of changed the shape, the collision shape, and I said the collision shape is all about you improving the force between your wheel and the surface of this road. And what we did, it was like we changed the shape. The shape that was there was cube shape. It's a more bigger shape, so we improve it and increase it to I think we improve it and change it to hoods. And when we change it to hood, we now specify the kind of hood that we want. That we want a spherical hood. So that's why it's now going without bouncing. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do now, let's now put fog. If you look at that diagram again, there's no fog. You know what they call fog. We're just talking about a distant cloud that we'll see when we are driving on a lonely road, just like a cloud at the surface, but it's not going to be very obvious, just a faint type of cloud, like at the front here like this. We just put a little kind of cloud here at the front. That's what we call fogs. Fog is just talking about that sky you're seeing ahead of you while driving. Okay, so to do that, we'll go to 3D World, then look at it. So we improve this one. We can change the gravity. So let's change it to -70. Now let's click the fog. I click the fog. So it depends. If you reduce the size of the fog will come more closer. If you increase it, it will go more further. If you increase it, like the fog will be far from the driver, but if you reduce it, it will be more closer to the driver. So let's say we reduce this one to, let's say like 1.5. So let's try to preview it. Let's try to preview it. Now, the reason why the car is moving upstrut, moving up, is because these are why supposed to be -70. So when we put it as a positive value, there will be an upstrut movement instead of linear movement. Okay, let's try to correct that. So let's correct that quickly. Okay, now the fog is just because the fog is dark in color. If you look at it, it's as if the sky is coming closer to the scene. With the fog, we have like we brought this. It's just like we brought the sky more closer to this our scene part. That's what they call fog ahead of us. Okay, so thank you very much. So the next scene we're going to be working now. The next scene now we're going to be working on basic movement and basic graphics.
This is not